Hey, what's going on, Podcast Nation? It is Jason Harris here, and thank you for joining me on another episode of Strategy with Jason. I am here in Las Vegas, Nevada, where it is hot outside, but it is cool in here, and I have the one, the only, I've been told famous. I'm just kidding.
Only in Germany.
Only in Germany. I have Derek Numa with me. Derek, what's going on, man? Good to see you.
Good to see you, brother.
I'm so excited that we get to do this. I mean, last time we saw each other, I think we were in Kentucky. And we got to go for a quick little drive in the Tesla, and
in the rain.
After that conversation, man, my mind was just I'm like, dude, we got to do this again. There's so many things and so many cool and new things that have happened since the last time we do this. I'm just glad that we got a chance to record this. Derek, you know I love kicking off these podcasts with a little origin story. Because I'm always fundamentally fascinated, right? Because I don't think anybody just wakes up one day and goes, yeah, let's spend a career in the auto space. No, I'm just kidding. It's a great space. I love it. But let's start there. How did you get started in this crazy little world we call the automotive industry?
Well, so in 1989, I had moved to Auburn, Alabama to go to college. And I had a job lined up when I got there. So I show up at the job, and the guy's like, oh, no, you misunderstood. We don't need you till March. And this is December. And I was like, yeah, well, I'm starting college. I need a job. That's the whole reason why I did this. And so he's like, yeah, I got a job for you, but it isn't until March, end of March. And I was like, well, I got to find something to do. So I looked in the paper, and there's a car dealership that was needed help, sales help. So I went in and applied, and the guy told me no. And then the next week,
no?
Yeah, he said
the
no.
First time you did, no.
Yeah, I might have looked like a typical Florida, 19-year-old kid.
So are we talking about is this Derek with a little longer flowing hair? Okay, all right.
Yeah, it might have been feathered. It was the late 80s. Come on. So I go back a week later, and the guy tells me no again. The next week, there was a blind ad for salespeople. And it was one of those, if you pay $595, we'll teach you how to sell cars, right?
Okay, so I did the same. Okay,
yeah.
We got sucked into the same thing. Okay, sorry.
Yep.
Go.
No. And so I went home and I was talking to my girlfriend at the time, and she's like, well, I asked my mom if you can use her credit card. I didn't have $600 I'm 19 years old, man. I was like, all right. And so I show up, I pay my money, I go through the training, and he's like, okay, we're going to introduce you to the dealership that's hiring. And, they might not take you, and if they don't take you, we'll help you find someplace else to go. Well, guess where it was? It was the same dealership that had told me no twice already.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, and so I walk in, and the guy's name was Mark, and he's like, yeah, you're persistent. Get a haircut, and we'll give it a whirl. So the whole deal was that after 90 days, they reimbursed you the $595. And so that's what I told my girlfriend's mom. I'm like, hey, I'm going to get it paid back. Well, at the end of the 90 days, they gave it to me. They paid it to me on my check, and so they took taxes out. And so I was like, this is amazing. You guys have got me. So
I got conned the exact same way.
Yeah.
Literally, it must have been the same ad. I did the exact same thing. I showed up for 2 weeks. Now, I remember the guy, he's like, I'm only taking 2 of you. And I remember half the room leaving at that moment. But it was a roommate of mine who convinced me to do it. Now, I didn't realize later that he got paid $500 if I showed up to it. So, yeah, we both got conned into the business.
Yep.
Okay.
We did. Yeah, and so I was there. I started selling cars part-time. And first month, I was salesman of the month. And then, I was a 90-day wonder, right? I salesman of the month, first 3 months, 120 days in, I was like, I can't sell a car. What am I doing? This is the stupidest thing ever. And then, do you remember Jackie Cooper?
Oh, yeah, I remember Jackie, yep.
So this is legitimate.
I may have had to watch a VHS. I'm pretty confident I had to at one point.
So this is a legitimate story. I am sitting at the dealership. I'm pretty depressed. I'm like, why am I doing this? This is stupid. I need to get out of this business. I could go get my other job, right? Because now I'm 90 days later. And so I'm like, I need to make a decision. And we had a sales meeting that morning with the person that was selling the tickets for Jackie Cooper. Okay. And he's like, hey, any of y'all having problems with ejections? Because Jackie's going to teach you how to overcome ejections. I'm not buying today. I'm just looking. And I'm like, ooh.
Man, I remember these.
I was like, wait a minute. The last 10 cars that I haven't sold were to people that were just looking. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I'm going to go do this. And so I bought the ticket. It was $295, and I could pay for it myself. I didn't have to borrow from my girlfriend's mom that time. So I bought the ticket because they took it out of my payroll. That was the deal.
Yep.
And then I show up at the Jackie Cooper seminar, and by that time, This is a couple of weeks later, and honestly, I was like, okay, I've talked to 28 people that said, I'm just looking, and I haven't sold any of them a car. And so Jackie's up there, and he's doing all this stuff, and he was a showman, man. He was up there. He was just doing his thing. And I was like, I don't know I can do any of this stuff that this man is doing, right? And so he goes, hey, y'all, you ever have anybody that comes into the dealership that says they're just looking? I was like, this is it.
Here it comes.
This is why I am here.
Yes.
So I
You get my $300 worth, right?
I got my pen. I'm ready to write down the notes. He goes, this is what you say. He goes, are you looking to look or are you looking to buy? Because if you're looking to look, I'm the man. Or no, if you're looking to look, you need to go down the street. There's a mall, and in that parking lot, you'll find every make, every model, every car that you could ever want to look at. But if you're looking to buy, I'm the man. I will take care of you. And I was like,
exactly, you're right.
yeah, there's no chance in hell I'm saying this to anybody. Like if I said this to one of these Opelika, Alabama farmers that are coming in to pay cash for a Dodge D100, he'll take a swing at me.
Take a swing at you.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, this is dumb. What have I done? And I've just wasted $300 more. But I went back, and the next day somebody came in and they said they were just looking. I was like, okay. And then I sold them. And then that was like the floodgates opened. And I was like,
Floodgates open.
yeah, I was like, okay, I guess I'm being stupid. And I was back to
hilarious.
being the number one salesperson again.
I do remember Jackie because I do remember his V8, and I was trying to remember what do I remember, and I remember he used to teach a walk around. All right.
Oh, yes, he did.
And oh my gosh, I mean, by today's standard, practically inappropriate. Like, I mean, it would
No,
get
not
you in
practically. It is inappropriate.
It was inappropriate.
Yeah.
I remember him like, you make the customer hold the hood open for you, even though there's always a latch, right? You maintain that control the whole time. Like, you get the customer on all fours. You get them down there and you show them. I'm like, oh
You
my
get them to
God.
get in the trunk.
Yes, right? Like,
Yeah, no,
oh man, that's
Hey.
hilarious. I haven't heard that one in a while. Okay.
Yep. So there you go. There's how I got in the business. And you know what's fun about that is that I look back on it fondly now, but that was a really stressful. I'm sure you felt the same way. It was a very stressful event to go through.
Well, I remember watching him in VHS, but I went to a Grant Cardone one.
Yep.
That, I mean, I swear, at that point, I think Grant Cardone was just mimicking what Jackie had done. Because he was kind of the next one, kind of up and coming, right? And I had a similar experience with Grant Cardone. I was like, did I seriously just pay for this? What am I doing here? Why is this? But anyways, I digress. But hey, we both stayed in.
Yep.
We got bit by the bug.
Yep.
Love this industry. Definitely.
100%.
I can't ever imagine doing anything different because it's just so much fun.
We were at dinner last night with some dealers and we were talking about this. If you've played at any level a competitive sport, the only time you'll get a feeling like that locker room, like that team atmosphere, like that, group surging to hit a goal is in the retail auto space.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I mean, I think this is actually why I found fishing. Like, I've never used to be fishing, right? Now, since I moved to Nashville and I'm there, I'm like, it's right up there with it. And once you kind of get one on the line, you're like, oh
yes.
yeah, I know this feeling. I know exactly what this feels like. This is awesome, but you're 100% right. And the funny thing is we can remember every one of them. I mean, I remember everyone that had it. Was a blast. Well, we're in the business. We're loving the business. Man, this business changed so much, and it's just such an exciting time for the business. Really exciting time for you guys and
Very
for being in
exciting.
the business. I mean, holy cow! Can I say it? Can I talk about it? Okay. Like, if you don't know, all right, there's been a piece both in the automotive news, and I think I just saw in Digital Dealer.
Yeah, it's on the front page of Digital Dealer today.
Front page Digital Dealer, guys. If you haven't seen it, Numa. Pump that chest a little bit. All right. 30, can I say the number?
Yeah,
32 million dollars.
$32 million.
And I heard it found you. You didn't find it.
Yeah, it wasn't planned.
Wow.
So what he's talking about is that we had a very successful fundraise. Our founders are really true Silicon Valley tech entrepreneurs and have been down this path for a long time, right? Tasso and company, they sold another very successful SaaS product back in 2015, and then they started Numa. And with all the growth that we've had throughout the last 3.5 years in automotive, a couple things have happened, right? Inc. 5000, we were announced as the 168th fastest growing company in America.
Wow.
249% growth the last 3 years.
That's awesome.
We're the 4th fastest growing AI company in America right now. which is insanity to me.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And so all of this is happening. We're getting all this good press, and we had investors that were coming up because of relationships with Tasso in the past that were like, hey, we want to get into this, and we want to invest. And so we were really oversubscribed. A lot more people wanted to invest than what we allowed in. And we're just super excited because it clears the way for us to focus on development over the next 18 months. And, you know, if you look at where we're going and what we've done, one of the things that I think is really kind of interesting is that when we started looking at automotive and we said, how can we help re-architect the process? Right? You and I talked about this before.
Of course.
How do we remove the friction that exists in the communications?
These valleys, these ups and downs, these ups and downs.
How do we remove that friction? How do we provide that accountability? And we started filling these niches with our AI, and our autonomous AI agents are now handling so many different things for dealerships. It's kind of crazy how it's grown. But it's the way it should be, though. I mean, look, I hire my staff because their ability to gift a gab and to sell a car, you know, the more time I can give them back to doing what I hired them for, the more successful I'm going to be. Yeah. So that's what we found out, is that if you take out technicians out of the dealership employees, 80% of the tasks that they do on a daily basis are repetitive.
Yeah, just conversation.
So if we can help eliminate some of that repetitiveness to free them up for what they're supposed to be doing,
exactly,
which is being belly to belly with a customer, whether it's an advisor or parts counter person or a salesperson, we want them belly to belly with customers because it's still human business, right? It's still human to human.
Enhances the experience, right? It's like I'm not stuck behind that computer because my CRM has 256 tasks I haven't completed yet. Anyways, go ahead.
Amen. No, you're right. And so what we did when we looked at this whole ideation behind re-architecting the way that certain tasks are done with autonomous AI agents, we realized that we've got a bunch more that we can bring to the market. And so this is just paving the way for us to really have a lot of very unique, very special things that we're going to be showing at NADA. We've already got, if this goes out before my talk, I'm going to show a couple of things today or talk about a couple of things today in generalities. But if you come by the booth, we've got some new functionality in regards to call intelligence and summarization and sentiment analysis, and really driving that accountability to every conversation that happens with your employees and the customers. So you're
taking this data that I think a lot of other companies have access or are able to maybe track, but the data is only as good as how well we can make it actionable.
Right.
And I think that has been one of the things I've been most impressed with you guys, is that it's like the ease of making these things actionable. Right. And just and the cool thing is, you're not necessarily defining the process as much as you're like, hey, dealer, what is your process? What does a successful process look like for you? And then let me reverse engineer backwards, all right, and give as much back of that time as I can to you. And I think that's super impactful.
We look at our dealer client base, right? We're probably north of 700 dealers right now. And that's awesome. Look at each one of their implementations, they're not the same.
No.
There's no cookie cutter. It's dealership A does business differently than dealership B, which is different than dealership C, which, you know what? God bless them, because that's where the entrepreneurial spirit and that
100%.
That build your team around your core concepts, that's what we want to support. So, and it's really cool to be able to go in and sit down with the dealer and be like, all right, we mystery shopped your phone. You can have the best AI in the world, but if you put it in the wrong place in your phone system, it ain't going to work.
Well,
right?
You're right. You're right. It breaks down the experience.
It does.
You know, I think the tools are here to enhance the experience, not to make the experience
100%.
more difficult.
Yeah, and so when we can go in and actually help on a consultative basis by saying, look, if you called in to your dealership, it's actually painful to try and do X, Y, or Z.
Trust me, I know. I call it the ping pong, right?
Yeah. You're getting bounced back and forth 3 or 4 different times, and you never get it accomplished. And when we can streamline that, and we can use the integrations that we have with the DMS, the integrations that we have with the phone system, to take that friction out of the actual conversation and getting to the right person, man, it saves everybody so much time.
It is. It's a huge thing. And I think everybody out there that's watching and listening right now, for years I've had this metaphor where I call it the dealer stew.
Yeah.
All right. And I got a chunk of website. I have a dash of CRM. I got a sprinkle of, some advertising, and it's like, and all of this is supposed to kind of like mold and melt and work together. And, over the last decade, that has been increasingly difficult. I mean, there's some products and some guys out there have chosen just not to play nice with others. Then there's also just been limitations in the technology itself. And it's just like, I just love how you guys kind of come at the center of all of this, right? And you're like, no, we can take the data from here and we can connect it over there, and it's like, man, this is going to be one really good tasting stew by the time we're done here.
Yeah, and it's definitely going to be a bouillabaisse. It's where we're headed. I
love it. We're gonna rock. I'm gonna be hungry after this, man.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a bouillabaisse. And I think what you just said there about data is really kind of interesting. We've been working with some larger dealer groups that have been talking to us about CDP, right?
Of course.
And if you look at the intent data that you can garner off of conversations, off of text messages, off of call behavior, off of service behavior, all of a sudden you start tying that with your first party data and things get kind of interesting.
It gets really interesting.
Yeah, it's
and
really interesting.
I think it's just the amount of time, the amount of efficiencies, but also the amount of insights that I can take immediate action on. I mean, just talk about supercharging, my ability to effectively lead, change, have real change management, because the data's there. Look, it's nowhere. Yeah, okay, I think that's where the wind's blowing,
right.
Kind of thing. It's like, I have the information in front of me, and I know in your talk today, there are a few like really cool points that I think drives what I'm trying to say home here real well. Actually, let's do that real quick. For everybody that's going to be attending, we're going to give you a little quick sneak peek. If you aren't able to come there, well, I'm confident Derek's going to be able to put this out afterwards. All right, but what would you say would be like 3 key takeaways from your talk today?
I think what we want to do, because we're not talking about Numa, right? We're talking about AI in general.
The ecosystem. Yes, I love it.
I think that if I'm a car dealer, what I want to take out of my conversation today is that we want to be looking at best in breed AI engagement in other verticals. So think about, hey, here's real life. My flight just got canceled. I'm stuck in Vegas indefinitely because of the hurricane, right? So
sorry to hear that.
It is what it is right now. But if I call the airline right now, there's a very good chance that I'll talk to an AI product that won't be able to do anything.
No.
And so at that point in time, all that does is drive my frustration. So we look at other industries, other verticals where they're actually applying AI effectively, and we want to learn from that. And so as a car dealer, that's what I want to do. I want to look at where I've had a positive experience with AI and why it was and what it was that allowed me to have that. Good example, I don't know if you stayed at Caesars, but Caesars has an AI chat that you can text. And it's very easy to communicate with that and to get your request handled through it.
I use the Bonvoy one. I love it. I find it because I can ask it like, I'm looking for a hotel that is dog friendly, all right, that has an indoor pool and an M Club lounge. And I'm like, if I had to go, by the way, just Google that and sift through about 15 different listings to find out which one of those had those, it would be ridiculous.
Yeah, and that's the application of the AI and the data that we're talking about. And so at Numa, what we're trying to do is bridge that gap so that when there's a customer request, that the AI knows what they need next and is serving it up to the human at the dealership to have it.
Yes.
Right? So either we'll provide that autonomously, or we will provide it to the human that we then require that human to communicate back to the customer.
Right.
So that's one of the things. So I like to see the other industries that do it well, and we can learn from the ones that don't do it well as well.
Well, and look, okay, maybe this is the dealer coming out at me, right?
Yes.
But look, dealers out there, again, watching and listening, like this is the kind of stuff I'm looking for in an AI partner, and I really do. I am using the word partner, and I do actually mean this, right? Because I've always called my vendors partners, and I started that in 2010. It's not a new thing for me. I've done this for a long period of time, but this is again something that I look for in a partner. Look, at the end of the day, I own a dealership. This is my business, okay? I hope the partner I'm partnering with is looking at other verticals, is getting better ideas, is bringing me best practices that I didn't even know I existed. And I think that it's, look, you know how it is. It's not enough anymore just to meet the expectation. You're my partner because you exceed my expectation, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's super key. And I think that's just, you know, if you're out, look, at the end of the day, guys, if you don't have an AI partner, you need an AI partner. But these are the kind of things I'm looking for. Sorry. Anyways, I digress. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think that that's valid. And here's one other piece that I think is really important about what you just said about the AI partnership. If you look at the numbers that are coming out of the big picture surveys that they're doing, net operating profit with a properly deployed AI goes up. Operating expense goes down. Efficiency per person goes up on the average worker.
Yes.
Okay. Not on the top tier and not on the bottom tier, but the average worker, we're seeing efficiency increases. What that means to a dealer is that it's not, should I do AI? It's when will I do AI?
100%.
And the people that are starting today are literally getting a 12, 18-month running start around this whole idea compared to people that are going to join in 12 to 18 months. Nobody wants to be an early adopter. We're well past the early adopter stage.
We are.
Our company is 8 years mature in November. We're 3.5 years in automotive, solely focused on automotive. This isn't if come maybe product.
Well, and it's also not a box solution. And I think
It's
that
not.
needs to be really. I think that needs to be really kind of driven home, right? It's like, you know, the way that you guys are prompting, the way that you guys are training, these are individual to each dealership.
100%.
I know I have the ability to change language patterns, tonality. I mean, you name it. You know, I mean, look,
Male, female.
exactly.
How do you want it responding? What's the timing? Like everything. It's all customizable. Our head of product, who is one of our co-founders, Andy, love him to death. He gets a little bit edgy when I say that we're infinitely customizable, because he's like, you really shouldn't say that.
Every good founder would be.
I'm like, but man, it's real. Like, I have never seen us not be able to customize it based on what the dealer wants to do. He's like, yeah, but you really shouldn't say that. So now we just say, hey, we can do a lot of customization based upon what you're after. Yeah. And I was talking to a dealer yesterday that actually has some stores in Hawaii, and he was asking about, hey, can we get a Hawaiian accented English speaker? And so
it's wildly specific.
It is. And so we're looking into that for him, because I think that would be a really, really unique piece if we could do that. So anyway, I love the engagement. I love how our dealers challenge us with ideas, and I love how we're able to look at other spaces and say, hey, these are some best practices. How can that relate to what we're trying to accomplish today?
I'm curious, because I love finding best practices from other places. I truly, truly do. You know, I had an amazing experience at a Trump hotel, actually, where me and my wife were going. We were staying as a part of like booking they asked if we're going to be valeting. I said yes. They asked me for the plate license. I was like, well, that's interesting. Okay, put it in there. Didn't really think much of it. Get there, all right. Open the door.
They already knew.
Hello, Mr. Harris and Mrs. Harris. I'm like,
yeah.
Do I have something on my shirt?
Yeah.
What's going on? And it was like, just what an amazing best practice, right? But if we're not looking outside at other industries, dude, that was a wildly unique and very, very impactful, tiny but awesome experience of just wow.
The psychology behind that, everybody wants to hear their own name, and to have them greet you by name when you pull up is very powerful.
It was very impactful. But again, like if we're not committed to looking outside the industry. So I'm curious, because that was one I found outside the industry. What has been an example maybe you've kind of seen outside the industry that maybe you guys are beginning to look at or possibly even fold into your own solution?
So the biggest thing is that we have found that our AI, and this is coming from other industries as well, when it has a persistent conversation with somebody that they can reference back to, is much more successful.
Oh,
meaning
recalling.
Yes, meaning if I'm just on the phone and I just go, hey, and the AI is like, hey, and it asks a question and you respond and it doesn't understand, like that moment in time is gone. Right?
Yeah.
So with our AI, every single conversation, successful or not, is recorded, is transcribed, and is visible. And so when a customer starts communicating, whether it's phone or text, it's a persistent conversation so that they can go back and see what's happened. And we can actually communicate back to them. We can text them and they can see what's happening, and they can engage the AI that way. And we find a lot of people always say to me, well, we have an older demographic. Do you think this is going to be an issue? And I'm like, no, actually, we find that the older demographic texts with the AI more so out of the box than any other demographic
And
that
I
we've
actually
seen.
think they're better at it because they actually give a bit more information.
They do.
Than the short form.
Yeah.
Some of the information that's shared with the other generations.
It's very interesting to see, though, the engagement of texting with the AI within
Yeah.
the older demographic.
Yeah.
They do. They give it all the information. They're very detail oriented when you're doing it.
Well,
So-
and I think how impactful it is on the recall, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because like how much of a horrible experience that is. I mean, I in fact I just had this, right? So I'm, going back onto AT&T. I need to make a phone plan. What do? They usually start you off with their AI,
Yes.
right? And it's just like, well, what's your number? I stick it in. Well, what's your name? What's your last name?
Uh-huh.
What's your address? What's your account number? I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like, I gave you the phone number. For the love of God, there's not a chance in the world they're not able to pull this information and recall it.
The data's not persistent.
So every single time I go on there, I go through this whole, like, here's my name, my first name and last name,
Yep.
my firstborn, my blood type, my shoe size, and then I can actually get
Right.
into some conversation
Right.
that it's not even going to be able to help me or assist me with anyways, and then it's eventually going to connect me to an operator. Like,
Right.
how insanely frustrating that is.
What's even more frustrating is that when you get dumped to the operator, they don't have any clue.
I start the whole process all over again.
Yep. So you feel like you've wasted all that time, and we've been doing a couple of pilots for some OEMs that are wildly successful right now because we're able to engage the customer with the AI in a way that they don't find offensive, the way that they're not worried about completing their task because of the way that we frame it. And we actually
so
are
the
able
handoff,
to,
nice,
yes,
smooth
and so we get
handoff,
all of this data
the
that now we
balance.
can pass through, and the
Yeah.
customer loves that because it
Yeah.
saves them that time.
Oh yeah.
So we're looking at things that are
I call that the dance. 'Cause
Yeah.
And I think it's like every company approaches the dance differently.
Right.
Right. Like if we think 24 months ago or 36 months ago, there wasn't a dance. It was on, it was off. That was it.
Right.
It was the functionality of it. Right. Now it's like the customized ability to handle the dance and the handoff between human and AI, and then the back and forth between it. That's I'm so excited and fundamentally fascinated with it.
So one of the things that I talk about, because there are some very good AI vendors out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's other people in the service space. There's
And I love the advancement that everyone's putting into it.
that
It's just the betterment of it.
We are. If you look, I was just on a panel with Brooke and Stella, and one of the things that came up in the conversation was the security best practices that the three of our companies implement, because AI is dangerous as a tool if somebody doesn't know what they're doing. And there's a lot of companies that are adding AI, meaning generative AI, into their product by just throwing some prompts in there.
Sure.
The challenge is, and we were talking about prompting and the hackathon that was going on and stuff, but the challenge is that anything that you put into your prompt is owned by the AI company at that moment in time. So there's a
That makes sense. Yes, of course it is. That's right. Yes.
yeah, it's in their terms of service. There was actually a programmer for, I believe it was Samsung. You can look it up, but he dropped the core code for one of their chips into ChatGPT to have it try and help him optimize the code because he was stuck on a bug. He gave them the whole entire core dump, and so now ChatGPT can use that information in any query that's issued by another
my
person.
goodness.
We in testing about 6 months ago, we were doing some testing with a generative AI product. I'm not going to say which one, but when we were doing testing and we were asking it questions, we were actually getting customer data that was bleeding through from another vendor that had put customer data in it.
Oh man, I didn't even think about that, but it totally makes sense.
Yeah, they own it. As soon as it goes into a prompt, they own it.
Yeah.
That's the reason why prompt security is such an incredible part of what a true AI team is doing. You have to have if you're not doing it by hand, like the application security sandbox area where we send out a generic prompt, we get the response back from a generative AI, then we bring that into our AI and merge that with the customer data.
Yeah.
right? Because you cannot let that cross into the generative AIs.
No,
So
because at that point it does become open
it's theirs.
information, and it's
Yeah.
funny because, like, I mean, actually now, you know what, Derek? I mean, I didn't think about that, but I'm thinking about
Well-
just even how many times I got to even go back to my team, and how many times have we, dumped a CSV into something to ask it to organize something, but to your point, the second I dump that CSV
it's
in
theirs. They own it.
see, look, now you got my gears spinning as well.
Well,
Okay,
and
but
that's
look, I see.
but that's the thing, right? That's what
Yes.
when we talk to dealers and they're asking me, well, how do I pick an AI vendor? Maybe not in our space at this moment, right? I say you need to be confident in the security and the training that they're providing their AI models.
Yes.
And if you're not, then you can't go with them.
And I didn't even think about the security aspect of it, but you're so 100% right how important that is.
If you add AI as a bolt-on, you did not plan for the security.
That's correct.
So if I just put generative AI capabilities in an app that already existed, there's challenges.
100%. Hey, Derek, look, I feel like I could talk to you about this for
Always.
like a whole nother hour,
Yep,
but I know we're
always.
getting towards the tail end of our time. For everybody out there watching and listening right now, and may want to come join the actual talk later today.
Come on, let's do it.
What's the information? Where do they need to go? And also, what is the best way to connect with you for anybody that's maybe not here
Yeah.
listening or watching?
So Derek@numa.com is my email, and we're super easy. Just go to numa.com. There's a contact us form. You can put in any information on there. It's not ChatGPT. It only goes to me. So we'll respond to you directly out of there. But I'd love to answer any questions. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Derek Simonds on LinkedIn. I don't know. I'm everywhere, Jason.
I know you are. You're the best at that.
I'm everywhere.
And the workshop is today at
2:15 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I believe I am at 170 Boulevard. I think 170 Boulevard. I think I saw a
There we
thumb
go.
up. So 170 Boulevard here at the fabulous MGM Grand Resort
It's
and
now
Casino.
very dusty from that thing.
It's the explosion was awesome last night. So I do want to tell you one thing. I
Yes.
think that if I'm talking specifically to service managers or general managers, I want to challenge you to use generative AI in some different ways in the dealership. I want you to think about things like, I have a prompt here that I'm gonna just read it to you, because I think this is indicative of how easy it is to have generative AI help you, right? So this is just a prompt that we've been using with some of our service managers.
Sure.
You're a service manager at an import automotive dealership. Create an A to F grading score for your team about how well they handle customer interaction. And I'm going to just show this to Jason, but you literally can see what it's created.
Isn't that something?
And it's put this through.
What's an F mean? What's a D mean? What's a C mean?
Right. And then what are
Okay,
the
you got follow-up
implementation-
questions, implementation steps.
and follow-up questions, right?
That's
And so you can do the same thing where you can say, I'm a service advisor, or pretend you're a service advisor at an import automotive store, and you need to call a customer and upsell them on tires. What are some objections and ways to overcome them that I need to be aware of?
Here's the funny thing is, we've talked about this before. Yeah. I am a monster stickler and a huge advocate of process documentation. Right. And it's like today, with the tools that are available to us, I believe there's absolutely no excuse in the world, none whatsoever, all right, not to have a documented process, all right, that everybody has access to and can be fully trained and coached on. Like, I just don't think there's an excuse for it.
There's
it
no
just
excuse.
legitly isn't, right? And this is a perfect example. I mean, that was, what, a few minutes?
Not even seconds.
Seconds.
So you can take that idea where you tell the generative AI who you are, how you need to behave,
what you're looking for, what your objectives are.
right?
Yeah.
And then, as we discussed, right,
Yeah.
from your friend from Hackathon, we want to ask ChatGPT, do you need any other information, right? Is there
Yeah.
anything else that you need to know before you start this? And then you can go in and use this to create your processes and document them. I love it. It's awesome.
And then the cool thing is, you have this documentation. You guys can now go out there. You can implement it. You can test it. You're going to come back to it. Here's the thing, and I think I tell everybody about a process documentation, is that the first one is never your last one.
No.
All right? You're going to go back and modify this in 10 or 12 different variations, but it's just like,
Right.
again, it's just so impactful, so easy to use. Hey, I'm really excited about coming down
too.
and
Can't wait
listening
to
to
see you
your
down
talk. Hey, for everybody out there watching and listening right now, you know how to connect with Derek. You better do so. But hey, one of the biggest compliments you can give myself or Derek today is share the show. All right, that means a lot to us. If you have a friend, if you have a colleague or a vendor, all right, that needs to see this and understand a part of the conversation that we just went through today, share the show. It means so much to us. Again, thank you for everybody watching and listening. Y'all have a great day.
Thank you.
You rock.